What is keeping you from finally writing your children's book? Look, I know it's been rattling around in your head for years. It's probably crept onto the back of grocery store receipts or maybe on an old Christmas card envelope, but somehow it's just never made it to the finish line. There's lots of reasons that people start these creative projects and don't finish them. And I've been here this morning making a list of all the reasons why I didn't for a very long time. And so I have been where you are. I know how hard it is. So today we are going to make a list of these reasons that keep us from writing. We are going to come up with some solutions to help you overcome them because you deserve to finish your book and know what that feels like. And also, no one can read it and enjoy it unless you finally finish it. So if you're looking for some inspiration, if you need some practical advice on how to overcome writer's block or any of these obstacles that creep in our way when we're trying to complete a creative project, especially if it's a children's book, because that's my specialty, I hope you'll stick around because I think this could be really helpful. One of the first obstacles that we encounter to writing is just finding the time to do it. And I understand this problem because when I first started writing children's books, I worked in the entertainment industry and worked absolutely ridiculous hours, at least 12, sometimes 16, 18 hours a day. So trust and believe when I tell you that I understand what it's like not to have a lot of time to write. I have lived that experience. And as uncomfortable as it is, the only solution to finding more time to write is looking at your day, looking at your week. There may be 15 minutes a day that you can find to write. And I know you're saying, Amy, I can't accomplish anything in 15 minutes. But little by little, a little becomes a lot. And if you only have 15 minutes a day, but you do that 5 days a week, that 15 minutes of work really starts to accumulate. When you keep that promise to yourself, you become less likely to skip that precious 15 minutes of writing time. And when that happens, you actually start making progress, real tangible progress. You start filling pages, answering questions about your manuscript that you've had for maybe a long time, but you just never consistently devoted any time at all to really figuring out what it was that you were trying to say or what you wanted this story to be, whether it's character, plot, world building, if you write nonfiction like me, which subject you're going to cover and how. But if you find the time and you commit to making that time, even a small amount, even as much as 10 or 15 minutes, it will make a huge difference in the long run. Little by little, a little becomes a lot. A second huge obstacle to beginning or completing a writing project is self-doubt. And I even hesitate to bring this up because I don't really have a solution for self-doubt, because there is always a moment with every story, with every project, that you wonder if you're doing the right thing. And do you know why that is? Because you're the only one doing it. It's just you and your story. It's just you and your book. There's nobody to tell you, take a left turn, take a right turn, this is good, this is bad. It's just you in your own head. And I know how hard and terrifying that is. Believe me, I encounter self-doubt every single time I sit down here at my writer's desk. But the difference between finishing a project and having one just rattling around in your head for ages is the willingness to embrace that self-doubt and try to find a way to write anyway. Because the more you write, the closer you will get to the solution. And, most of the time, the more you write, the better you get at writing, and that is never a bad thing. So while there's not an easy solution to overcoming self-doubt, at least maybe take some comfort in the fact that, like, some of the greatest, all of the great writers doubted themselves. Go check out some biographies of some writers that you love, some famous writers, past and present, and see if somewhere in that work you cannot find a shred of self-doubt within them. I challenge you to do that because it will make you feel a lot better. It's just part of the process. Just like you would accept the fact that if you were an accountant, you were responsible for, handling payroll every week. If you just accept that self-doubt is an inherent part of the job and embrace it and move on anyway, that is how you become a writer. You know what? I take that back. That's not how you become a writer. You're a writer the minute you pick up a pen. That is how you become a consistent writer. And when you become a more consistent writer, you are more likely to realize your long-term and short-term goals with your manuscript, like, maybe finding an agent and getting published. accomplished if that's what you want to do. Riding shotgun with self-doubt, of course, is fear. And fear is a very natural part of doing anything that you've never done before, right? Fear of the unknown. And in writing, this can be fear based on the fact that you don't know where your story's going. This is something I confront all the time because I don't necessarily plot all of my books in advance, even though I write nonfiction. I write to discover. And this is a skill I picked up in graduate school, and I am really grateful for it because it reassured me that, the first idea is rarely the best idea. And sometimes if you're afraid and you just start writing, you will find the solution that you were afraid you wouldn't arrive at anyway. And so then you start to sense how unfounded that type of fear was in the first place. Another kind of fear is that we're going to be ridiculed either by the people we know and love or by complete strangers. And I get that. It doesn't get any easier when you actually publish your book and start realizing your goals, because then you're afraid of a whole new set of things. What are the review publications going to say about my book? What are my friends and family going to say about my book? I mean, this has happened to real life people I know. Authors that finish their book and then the closest people to them are like, it's not really my cup of tea. And that hurts when it comes from the people we love. But we're also in a subjective business. Writing is ultimately subjective. All art is subjective. So of course, there's going to be natural fears around everybody not accepting it maybe in the way that you wanted them to, or their interpretation of it being very different from what you originally intended. And that fear holds a lot of people back. It is not baseless, but you can't let it beat you. You have to embrace these frightening aspects of the unknown and overcome them, because the most important thing is that you finally finish your book and you get to know what it feels like to have that sense of accomplishment. Because I gotta tell you, it feels really good. Even when you finish the crappy first draft that, only a mother could love, it's terrible and it's terrible, but you got to the end, that feeling of finishing is like absolutely nothing in the world. And I wish that for all of you. I want you all to finish your books. So let's unpack some more reasons why you might not be doing that. Finances can be a big barrier to people finishing their book. And that goes hand in hand with time, right? If you work full time or you have more than one job, finding time to write can be nearly impossible. So money is a huge obstacle, and I get that. I was a full-time children's book writer for a while, and that's what I had always wanted to do, and I thought it was going to be this incredible, satisfying experience. But I actually learned about myself that it was far too scary to do that. I like having a part-time job that relieves the pressure on my creativity so that I don't feel like I have to constantly be publishing, one book after the other, in rapid succession, because then I start worrying more about what's going to sell as opposed to what I really love and what I want to write. And I don't think that is actually how creativity works. At least that's not how it works for me. But what I'm talking about here is, what kind of overhead do you need to be responsible for, to write a book? And the great news there is that all you need is a writing implement and a piece of paper, even if you don't have a computer. I draft most of my books, at least in part, by hand when I first start a new project, and then I transfer them to the computer with Microsoft Word, and some other software that I use. But that's a whole other story. But if you're going to start writing, all you need is something to write with and a piece of paper or a computer. And if you don't have a computer, your local library does. You can go there and you can use their computers to your heart's content. So don't start telling yourself stories about, how expensive it's going to be to undertake this because you have to buy a computer or you need fancy software. All you need is a pencil and paper and the commitment to just doing it. That's all you need. And commitment is free. So for some of you, the reason that you're not writing is just going to come down to a lack of confidence. And I understand that. Believe me, I was not at all confident when I started doing this. If I can just share in a spirit of vulnerability, I'm amazed every time one of my books comes out. No one is more surprised than me that I actually did it. That feeling has never gone away. I'm working on my 8th or ninth book now, and I am still absolutely blown away every time the thing rolls off the printing press and shows up at my door. I cannot believe that I did it. I am dumbfounded every single time. And it is because the process of writing is so difficult. I'm not here to tell you it's easy. I'm not here to tell you it's fun to get up 15 minutes earlier every day because you want to write a book and you have to support yourself at the same time. It's not a party, but the thing about us writers is we're compelled to do this. We didn't really choose it. It kind of chose us. We're kind of stuck with having homework for the rest of our days. But I think there is ultimately a lot of joy in that, and I think you do too, or you wouldn't have made it this far in this video. Here's the thing. Another day, another week, month, or year is going to fly by whether you finish your book or not. That's just the truth. And I'm here to say, what would happen if you took 10 or 15 minutes a day for the next week, the next month, the next year, and just see what happens? Little by little, a little becomes a lot. My first tip for getting back to this story that's been rattling around in your brain forever that you've never finished: run your own race. Look, I know it's a cliche. Everybody always says that. Run your own race, be your own person. But the reason it's a cliche is because it's straight up good advice. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be exciting. It doesn't even have to be all that neat. It just has to work for you and fit into your life so that you can consistently return to the page and find your way through your manuscript. Another great piece of advice as you're trying to build a consistent writing practice: don't compare yourself to others. I heard someone say this on YouTube: don't compare your day 1 to somebody else's day 1,000. And that is such excellent advice because everybody's process is different. Everybody's perspective is different. And some people just are more skilled at certain aspects of writing than you may be. So that means running your own race and not comparing yourself to others. Finally, I just want to remind you that you don't have to build confidence. All you have to build is momentum. That is the beautiful thing about an incremental daily, if you can swing it, writing practice, even of just 10 or 15 minutes. Because that momentum that you build, you start feeling proud of yourself, and somehow that pride magically morphs into this type of self-confidence. At least it does for me. And I think if you commit to returning to the page every single day, you will start to have that feeling too. I wish that for you because it will absolutely keep you going when you're feeling discouraged. So if you've made it this far in the video, first of all, thank you. But I also wanted to leave you with some of my favorite books on creativity and the writing process and overcoming fear to realize your goals. And they have done so much to help me stay centered and find bravery when I was struggling to finish a project or find the courage to continue one. The first book is Bird by Bird by Annie Lamott, and this is an absolute Bible for anybody who wants to write books for readers of any age. There is so much wisdom and comfort and just practically brilliant advice in this book that I cannot recommend it enough. If you are a writer and you have never read Bird by Bird, you're welcome. Go to the library and check it out, or purchase it from your favorite independent bookstore, and leave comments down below letting me know how it changed your writing practice and how it probably changed your life, because that's just what it does. The second book is The War of Art. I love this book by Steven Pressfield. Yeah, Steven Pressfield, because he really gets down to the nitty-gritty of how fear impacts our creative process. This is one of my all-time favorite books on creativity, Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I absolutely love this book. Austin is an incredible creator who understands so much about the heart of an artist and how hard it can be to find our way to make things and be consistent in that practice. And he's written two other books as well, but I would encourage you to read this one. There is so much encouragement here Finally, The Places That Scare You by Pema Chodron. I am not a Buddhist, but this book, the subtitle is A Guide to Fearlessness in Difficult Times, but it also helps me stay centered when I'm struggling at my writing desk. So that's what I have for you today. I hope that you have found some value in this video, that maybe you found some inspiration, some hope, maybe the courage to go back to your project and see what you find. I hope that maybe you can build on that and find a way to finish your book. And in future videos, we will talk about what happens when you do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.